Today I bring you a match between my Grave Zorga deck versus my opponent's Thegrea deck. Shoutouts to my opponent for letting me record and upload this game. Didn't have to do that, so I'm really thankful that he was okay with me doing this. So here we agreed on rolling 2d6s to see who goes first. My opponent got 6, I got a 7, so I chose to go first. So here, just checking my opening hand, deciding what I want to mulligan. Don't remember what my hand was to unfortunately be able to say, which is one of the problems. It looks like I just mulliganed the one, but which is the problem of doing the video this style way instead of just commentating as I play, but I want to be able to interact with my opponent, hence why I'm actually doing it this way. But I can go over mulligans in the deck profile. I'm sure I went over mulligans in the deck profile, probably just threw back a trigger. So here, yeah, this hand, I had a roaming Prison Dragon, so great one to drop as I want to drop zone, 2 for the ride deck, and then use Regular Train's ability. Unfortunately, didn't have any orders here, so, but I still had 2 roaming Prison Dragon in hand, which I ended up discarding. So I think that's why I had a ton of roaming Prison Dragons in hand and ended up drawing into an extra one. That's why I liked it, and I figured since I hadn't seen one, I was more than likely going to draw an order anyway. In hindsight, though, it was a bold play to make when normally you just want to mulligan to make sure you have an order, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, I also had like a Shadow Cloak in hand, so my hand was looking really good. I didn't want to give up those pieces and figured my odds were high enough to draw one. So here, and I also had the Shadow Cloak to allow me to get back, but I discard Grave Zorga for Eyeline, which probably means that I had another one in hand, and I believe I did. So here, just the obvious order to search out was Clouded Miasma. I always want that for my Alchemagic, therefore, since I didn't have it, that was the obvious one to search. And here, I believe I just moved to battle phase after that, as I'm sure there's other things I could do, but I may just call down Rearguard to put numbers out, but I figured I'd prefer just having the shield in hand, so I just attack Roman Prison Dragon, sack crit, meaning 2 damage to my opponent, Refuerzos, and Mabel on my opponent's side, so good start as I am still able to swing for 20k, my opponent cannot guard, damage checking yet another non-trigger. So opponent not seeing triggers, already at 3, so I'm feeling pretty good. And let's see what my opponent ends up going for. So he discards Draw for Ryline, or he has the Maple and drops him, which is great. And then reveals PG off the Grade 1 Thegrea's skill, just leaving it right on top so he can get that to hand, understandable. But now I know his drive check and know that he has a PG in hand, so that's some great information for me. And he chooses just to swing, which here I just take it because I wanted the damage. And I ended up, actually, I think I wanted to keep my hand, but I ended up checking over trigger, so just get a free draw to hand, don't have to take a damage here. So for the right deck, unfortunately here I did not see another order card, which is very concerning as I won't be able to Alchemagic, but I get rid of the Actia Sticky since I don't really need it here and I can easily bring it back with the Clouded Miasma if need be. I also believe I might have had another Actia Sticky in hand, which is more reason to pitch it as well. So here, let's see what I end up doing. Just checking my drop zone to see what I have, because I can still get back the roaming Prison Dragons. They just can only use one of their skills, so I end up Soul Blasting the Rancor Chain, which I do like in drop as it becomes a 10k booster behind Vanguard, which is great to grab that order back to hand, as I still want to be able to use it, as I still get a ton of value out of it. So here, I believe I just called the Actia. It got a bit messed up here. I don't remember why that is, but it will correct itself in a moment here. But here, I believe I call the Actia Sticky behind Shadow Cloak. And then the real reason I want to use this order card here is to trigger those roaming Prison Dragons, as just getting even just a 15k attack where my opponent's still at the 10k grade 2 is still phenomenal. I just end up calling all of them because why not? Just more cards to sack off later on for skills. A bit extra, I only really needed the 2. So here I see another order and another crit trigger on my opponent's no guard. So surprised my opponent really didn't use a PG here, but I guess I would need to sack double critical, which was unlikely. And seeing Felicidad, an interesting inclusion. I know it's great with the Dark Thegrea, but also the Light Thegrea here. So really just still not seeing triggers, and I still have a 20k, or an 18k Shadow Cloak attacking and a 25k roaming Prison Dragon attacking. And against a 10k body, it's hard. So my opponent's forced to discard with Thegrea, then discard with a Fasciata. So that's rough, having to get rid of that Dark Thegrea and use up 2 PGs on my first grade 3 turn, but I guess my opponent's hand really was not built for guarding my onslaught here. So the double critical in the early game definitely setting the tempo. Even though I don't have the order card, it's really making up for me not being able to Alchemagic. And so my opponent grabs a Mabel off a grade 2 Thegrea's skill, and then here we'll be able to use the grade 3 Thegrea skill to search out another card, hopefully to build a bigger board. But before that, can't forget that my opponent does have the Maple and drop that he is able to call out for free. Really good. So my opponent almost forgets that. And I said something because I'm just like, oh, I hate whenever I miss it, so I'm going to be nice to remind him. It's all just for fun, so I see no reason to be that guy who it just lets my opponent misplay on stuff that I understand. Like it can be, if it's a fun game, it can be easy to miss stuff. But of course, Has the other maple, able to call that down, gets the painkiller off the Vanguard skill. So setting up an alright offense here, but instead just choose to attack into the Shadow Cloak. I choose not to guard it with active sticky behind. Shadow Cloak's getting overcalled by Roaming Prison Dragon next turn anyway. Interesting, swings rearguard to Vanguard before Vanguard. I found that to be a bit of an interesting play. I choose to take it because I need Counterblast, and my opponent chooses to cycle with Painkiller. Understandable, since he had to use 2 PGs last turn. He's definitely trying to find more answers. Swings with Thegrea, and here I just choose to block it as I do not need more than 1 damage. And here, just taking advantage of the fact that Thegrea's numbers are only going to get bigger from here with consistent Persona rides. So here I'm able to Persona. I did have the other copy, so 10k to my front row. And here at 5 damage, I just really want to end the game here. So I use Actia Sticky to retire 2 Roaming Prison Dragons, draw 1, give itself 5,000, and messes up again here. Oh, I know what happened. People kept joining in. Yeah, and it just shifted the screens here. It will correct it in a second here. I'm going to make sure to take that into account next time I record these. But here I use Zorga's ability to discard the order to grab back Clouded Miasma. No reason to discard anything else as I need that order and drop zone, and I'd rather keep the Clouded Miasma and drop zone to recur. It's usually my first on the front end of my Alchemagics here. So with this combo, I'm able to call out the Rancor Chain. I choose to call this one just because I want to create as big of numbers to close out the game, as I said, and Rancor Chain does that. Oh, I missed calling the Rogue Headhunter, which is the reason I'm even able to make this play, as it reduces the cost by Counterblast 1, and that's all this Alchemagic would cost. And then, of course, I have the In Search of Faraway Ideals. Really fun card to power up stuff. I give it to the Actia Sticky. So now, as long as I order my attack correctly, Actia Sticky will gain another 15,000, which is phenomenal for one column, just forcing my opponent to guard with so much, especially since I've already seen 2 PGs out by my opponent. Zorga swings for 43,000. That's going to be a really hard guard to attack. Throws out, that is 1 to pass, and chooses to intercept twice here. Just figuring out numbers there, but yeah, we need he needs to intercept with both maples to be able to make it a 2 to pass. So really forcing my opponent to drop that guard there. So he does do that, and 2 blanks makes sense since I've been checking so many triggers already. But here, I chose to give it to Rogue Headhunter, that In Search of Faraway deal. So yep, so here I just attack again. That column is, let's see, 15, 35, plus 13, and my opponent's just forced to take it anyway. The other column was getting too big, so he ends up just checking, and the heal is on the wrong one, but it wouldn't have mattered since he would have had to check double heal. But with that, we move on to game 2. So here in game 2, my opponent chooses to go first. Of course, since he lost last time, that is, he gets the option here, and right now, in Overdress, for most decks, if not all decks, it's better to go first as you get to your grade 3 turn, which is more explosive first, your Persona rides first. Just makes sense. So we'll see if that ends up mattering in this game. But here, starting off, my opponent... Oh, also, good note to remember here. One thing my opponent did was he forgot to draw off of the starter still going second, so that also kind of hurt for card advantage wise. Maybe would have been able to guard a bit better. Here my opponent discards a Painkiller for Ride Line and passes it over. So I draw for my turn, discarding yet another Roaming Prison Dragon. Really great for starting out here. Just setting up my drop, so I really want to see those in drop. And this time I do have the Order, the Tearful Malice, to discard for Rancor Chain's effect. And here I just swing, sack a crit yet again. Feeling a bit bad here. I don't like just sacking crits on my opponent, just sending him behind already. He sees 2 triggers here, none of them really mattering. But he continues to play discard Refuerzos with Grey 1 Thegrea, finds the Fasciata, calls it to the back row rearguard circle in one of the side columns, and ends up sacking Overtrigger here. So really low impact Overtrigger here for my opponent, as it did not matter here. Probably would have just liked the 50k shield in hand it overall. But here I just ride into my Husk Dragon, get back the Tearful Malice, discarding yet another Roaming Prison Dragon, so my drop zone is set up beautifully. Call a Shadow Cloak here to start searching stuff out, and I can search for anything. I ended up having 2 Shadow Cloaks, so I call them both down to be able to search out 2 order cards, and since I have none in my drop zone, I can search out anyone I want. So of course I'm going to search out my Clouded Miasma, as I don't have access to one yet, and that's the crux of all my Alchemagics, as since this deck can't use Grief, Despair, Rejection, we need to get power otherwise. And Clouded Miasma is just one of the best ways to do it right now. And then, of course, grabbing the In Search of Faraway Ideals, as that card is another fantastic way to build up power to just close out games. And in my hand, I kind of have all the other orders I want. So here you see the Gather Upon Me, You Wandering Souls, discarding the Tearful Malice, giving my Vanguard an extra drive check, just to put on more pressure during my opponent's turn here. And also, it lets me call out the 2 Roaming Prison Dragons, giving those both 10k power, meaning they're hitting for 15, which is really good offensive pressure on turn 2 here, with a Twin Drive as well, which I do actually forget. I checked the heal and just completely forget to do the Twin Drive here, which is fine. I would have Would have been better to get the second drive, another chance to get sack a critical, or even my opponent guards that one with two 5Ks and then takes the final one, the 25K. But would have definitely been nice to see that extra card here. But it is what it is. I should have left the order out to remind me. I keep forgetting to do that. So my opponent rides into the grade 3 Thegrea. I should also state that the other order I run, the Wild Intelligence, the reason I didn't need here because I already had my Roaming Prison Dragons in drop zone, and with the Tearful Malice, I can easily get them back in there to call them out next turn. So my opponent does grab another Maple off a Thegrea skill, did not have one in drop zone this time, so it's great that he found that for future turns here. And then he'll be able to also use Thegrea skill yet again to check top 5 to call 1. And here, let's see what he gets. I don't remember exactly. So here he ends up not calling anything, which tells me that it was all a combination of grade 3s and triggers, and maybe like a PG. So he does call the Maple here, debating if he wants to call more, but ultimately ends up deciding just to attack with these two columns here. So one of the weaknesses of Thegrea definitely is such a weak first grade 3 turn, as you really just get the call off of Thegrea. No real power gain, doesn't really put up much pressure, but just the consistent percent ride from there on out with Maple's utility is definitely very powerful and why it's considered one of the best decks coming out of set 5 and all the glitter ride lines. So let's see, my opponent's still debating on what to do here. Might even have to go. I remember at some point I had to get up and check sign, so let me just skip ahead to when he starts attacking. So here he's debating and chooses to swing Vanguard first at my Vanguard, and here I just checking what I want to do next turn to see if I can just take the easy guard, as 15k shield will most likely stop this, or if I just want to take more damage here. And I believe here I opt for the easy block, as Thegrea's numbers are only going to get bigger, and with this deck, as long as I have the counterblast I need to make plays, I see no reason not to take advantage of using low shield early on to block these attacks. And with Rogue Headhunters and such, it's pretty easy to be able to work with low counterblast. Also, while I'm deciding to do this, one note you'll see is that Shadow Cloak placement. I should have put one behind Vanguard, and you'll see why next turn, as I really want to use it from here with the bounce effects, but having two behind the Roaming Prison Dragon means I'm just going to have to overcall them for boosters. So here I guard the 15k shield, checks front, but does not check the second trigger that would have broken through, so ends up benefiting me with that guard. And I still think it was worth it, even if it had broken through, is what it is. My opponent at most probably runs 4 front triggers, my guess, in standard Thegrea lists, so definitely still worth it. And the Maple here attacking for 28, I can just drop the 20k shield, playing with 30. And again, all I need is that one counterblast, so I'm sitting pretty good here. So here, let's see, what do I discard for Grave Zorga? Definitely debating that, what I want to keep, sequencing stuff, like what card effects do I need. It all matters here, because if I need an Actia Sticky, I need to take an Actia Sticky. If I don't need an Actia Sticky, I can just discard it here and always call it back off of the Clouded Miasma. So here I actually discard another Tearful Malice. Really doesn't matter here what order is, because I always discard one off of Zorga, but I end up calling the Rogue Headhunter, which is part of the reason why I can get away with low counterblast here. Though I don't think it ends up mattering unless I have the Actia Sticky, which I don't think I have. I believe I used Tearful Malice here, but I just wanted the boost power of Rogue Headhunter anyway, and since I'm at such low damage, I doubt I'll need the Counterblast reduction here, as I don't expect this game to go very long with my opponent already being at 4 damage. I discard the Actia Sticky for Zorga's ability, so I did have it, but I really just wanted to Alchemagic with Tearful Malice. One option would have been to use the Gather upon Me, You Wandering Souls again, but I did not have other cards in hand I really wanted to discard, as I would have had to keep the Tearful Malice. You have to discard 2 cards with guard for Ride Line and Zorga's ability, when I can just use Tearful Malice to be able to do it this way, and still be able to call the 2 Roaming Prison Dragons, get the extra draw. Though looking back on it, another line that I'm wondering would have been better is, I know I had some strong guard here, but taking advantage that I'm at 1 damage, I could have been way more aggressive here. I could have recurred back Clouded Miasma, kept the Grief Despair, not the Grief Despair rejection, the Tearful Malice in hand, use Actia Sticky to pop the 2 Roaming Prison Dragons, call the Rogue Headhunter. I actually wouldn't even have needed the Rogue Headhunter technically, but for better numbers, I could have called it and Alchemagic Clouded Miasma and the Gather upon You Wandering Souls to do a triple drive on Vanguard. But I think the other reason I chose not to do that is because I didn't want to cover all the 2 Shadow Cloak, so I could do that play. I actually called back a front trigger off a Cloud Miasma, bounce back with Shadow Cloak, and here I'm just on the offensive, having called the 2 Roaming Prison Dragons, making really scary numbers. Zorga swung for 23. My opponent blocked that, then Roaming Prison Dragon as well, and my opponent had to guard that as well. But both these are swinging for crits, and he just doesn't have enough guard to deal with both of them, and ends up just checking a draw into Drilling Angel, securing me the match.